Well, hi, folks. It's Hanson here on today's Parenting Matters. We've got a very special guest, and I'm very proud to bring him on. Discover a few things about this Mr. Brian Swan, and why you must slay your mindset and stop self-sabotage to achieve your goals in life. Brian's got an incredible story to share with us today, and we're going to dig into what makes an unstoppable family, what the secrets are to raising an unstoppable child, and the behind the curtain discussion about an unstoppable brands that they've created, and all about the Unstoppable Beard, which he's launched coming out of a period of self-sabotage. Technical issues. Here he is, Mr. Brian Swan.
Thank you very much. And I apologize. Crazy stuff happening in the land of Bali, but all is good. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you for joining us. First of all, what does it mean to be unstoppable to you and your family?
Well, I tell you what, unstoppable is a blessing and a curse. When you call yourselves the Unstoppable Family and then Unstoppable Surfer, there's no like you got to just go no matter what. So it's a blessing and a curse. It's something that this is where it really started back. About in 2005, and I was to give you an idea, I was a corporate engineer. So I was a robotics engineer, believe it or not. So I was a robotics engineer. I used to work with the life sciences, biotech companies. I worked in the semiconductor industry. I sold Elon Musk actuators for his first spaceship. So that's a little directly to him. So that's a little background before. For my wife and I met my wife 22 years ago in San Diego. I'm from Chicago, outside of Chicago. My wife's from Detroit. And of all places, we met surfing, actually in the water surfing 22 years ago. And it was from that where I put my eyes on this woman, and we've been together ever since. And what was interesting is when we got started, I was in the robotics engineering. My wife, she was I think working for Philip Morris at the time, and then she went from selling cigarettes on a huge as a huge manager for the West Coast. She went to the pharmaceutical industry, which she thought was a really great thing, but it turns out like she was actually doing more harm. And finally, what happened? This is what it really meant is my wife witnessed a woman putting her child into daycare, and she was on a Monday meeting. The woman had just given birth 6 weeks ago, and it was her first day back. And the woman walked in like 15 minutes late, and my wife, the boss, said, "You're late." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I just, this is my first day. I put my child in daycare after 6 weeks." And she goes, "Well, if you like your job, you're going to be putting your baby in daycare at 6:30, Monday through Friday, and you're going to go pick her up at like 5 o'clock. So just something ridiculous, like, right? Wow. And my wife was like, she goes, "Yeah, I love my job." She goes, "Of course, I'm sorry, I won't be late again." But my wife, what she witnessed was like, this is going to be me. This is going to be the future me. And like, oh my God, I can't do that. I can't raise a family, and like, I want to be the primary out of life. So that's my wife's story. And the next morning, we just bought our second house, $1 million house in San Diego. Like, we're like, this is when the real estate market is rocking. Like, we thought we were real estate moguls. And I invested in that house, and then I got did a golf course deal, and then had like 5 houses on a golf course, and everything was rocking. Well, we actually invested with a really bad guy. So like, not only did he crush us, he crushed probably about 10 different families. My family got involved. It was like a horrible experience. Oh, it was a train wreck. So we went from millionaires to bouncing a $5 burrito, like me putting on a debit card. I had insufficient funds. And you go from $1 million in the bank to like having non-sufficient funds when you're trying to buy a $5 burrito. I never understood why do they charge you $35 for when you don't have the money, and they charge you more money because you don't have the money in your account. Anyway, that was the breaking point to where my wife and I we were like, what do we do? We're absolutely screwed. We're going to have to file bankruptcy because we have 5 homes that like now they can come after us for $500,000 each. We didn't even have any, we didn't get anything out of this. It was just a train wreck nightmare. Probably 2 years of the worst mental mind stuff of lawyers, lawsuits. And we're stuck at a point. And when you're stuck at a point to make a decision, I remember we went from like just crushing it to where probably, you know, friends and family, like, man, they're cocky. This is, you know, that. And now they're like, look at, you know, now look what's happening to you.
Yeah.
And it was funny. It's like my wife, we looked at each other and we're like, everybody was telling us, you know, go back, get your corporate jobs. You guys are going to be fine. It's okay. And my wife, she looked at me and she said, I'm not putting my child. And at this point, our daughter was just 1 year old. She just turned 1. And she goes, I'm not putting her daughter in daycare. And I'm like, and I at an age between 11 to 16 years old, I witnessed my father dying of AIDS. So this is, if you think back, this is back in 1985. My father contracted AIDS. He was actually my mom and him got divorced. He was actually out of the closet gay. Like he actually wasn't. He never even came out of the closet, but he was gay, contracted AIDS. And at 11 years old, I just saw this shift in him. It was like nothing mattered anymore. To where it's like I know I only have 6 months to live, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years. Fortunately, he was able to live for 5 years. But what happened? You know the movie The Bucket List, where Morgan Freeman, and there are 2 guys that have some disease terminally and they're gonna die, so they go live the bucket list. My dad did this like 10, 15 years before the Bucket List movie, and I just remember him saying, like, I have my brother, my sister. He goes, "Who wants to go to Europe?" And I'm like, I want to go to Europe. Who wants this? And so we just started traveling the world. When we grew up in a town of 2,000 people, this is something like no one did. We just started traveling the world. He goes, "Who wants to go to Egypt?" I'm like, yeah. I'm like, this is what's in, I'm studying this in school. I'm like, now I get to go do it. And it was like, I get to see the world through my own eyes versus a textbook. And so from the age 11 to 16, I realized at a very young age that you're never given permission to have another day. You do not know when today may be your last, right? So learning that at such a young age, I'm like, I was very grateful for, like, you know, seeing the world, and I knew that there was a bigger world out there. And in university, I was going to the University of Illinois, and I remember my second year in school, and it was awesome. I was in a fraternity, and it was wild. It was like what you see in the movies, you know, of how to live, you know, how to, you know, it's like that whole university college lifestyle. And I said, you know, there's got to be more. There's got to be something more to this. And I went and studied abroad. So when I went to Australia, I picked up a surfboard. I was never surfed a day in my life, and I remember getting to Perth, and I remember going to the beach, and I saw just a beautiful chick in bikini. I saw a guy catch a high barrel surfing, and I went, bam, that will be my life for the rest of my life. And I had no idea how to do it.
Wow.
I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to surf, but I just like, that is something magical. And so, but it was from that moment that when my wife and I were looking at each other, this is in 2008, and you know, like now the real estate market's starting to crumble on this, you know, the financial crisis, recession way back then. And we looked at each other, and she said, "I'm not going to put my child in daycare." And I said, "Well, you know what? I'm never guaranteed another day." I go, that we only have right now. Let's go live our passion right now. And everybody thought we were absolutely crazy. Like no one was doing this. There's no families traveling the world, let alone with a 1-year-old in this online world. And they're like, they're like, this internet thing is gonna go away. Like seriously, we just, you know, we watched this interview with Steve Jobs, and he's like, and this was way back in 2005, and he's like, if you are not having something online, you will be irrelevant. And I'm like, dude, I don't think this internet thing is going anywhere. Like, let's go. At that time, I'm like, I'm a surfer. I've been surfing for about 10 years now. And I'm like, let's go travel the world and surf the world's best waves and freaking just live like today could be our last, and show and experience the world for our 1-year-old. She's now 13. She had she created her fashion company at the age of 9. She had her first 6 figures in her family company at the age of 11. She's spoken all around the world on stages of, thousands. She gets paid to speak along with myself and my wife. And she's only growing up in a world of entrepreneurs, and you can go do something now. So we never asked her, what do you be grow up? We actually asked her that on a video that when we were living in Panama, we went over to Costa Rica, and my wife, she has a video. She goes, Hanalei, she goes, what do you want to be when you grow up? She goes, I want to be a fashion designer. And my wife, you could just see this like twinkle in her eye. My wife says, you know that you could be a fashion designer now, don't you? And my daughter, just like her eye, just this twinkle, like it gave her that, really?
Yeah.
Because if you want to be the best fashion designer in the world, you can do that right now.
Yeah.
And we didn't know she was actually a fashion designer. We had no idea she was actually, for like 3 years, she was sketching clothing that we didn't even know. And then someone discovered, they're like, it was in Bali one late night. My daughter is sleeping. She's 8 years old. She's sleeping on the thing. Our power went out. It was a crazy night. And we're talking to this woman. There was only us, this woman, and we had to get a hotel room. And she goes, I'm a fashion designer. And my daughter wakes up, dead asleep. She wakes up. She goes, I'm a fashion designer too. And this is about a year after we asked her this on camera, and we're just looking at each other, my wife and I, and we're like, what? Like, she goes, and then the woman goes, well, if you're a fashion designer, I bet you have your sketchbook with you, don't you? And she goes, of course I do. And she brings this book up, and they start going through all these sketches, and my wife and I, we're just looking like, you're just showing like doll clothes. And she's like, where did she learn this from? I go, learn what? She goes, these fashion designs are amazing. Who's the fashion designer? And we're like, what? We had no idea. And that's just went on a journey to where we're like, if this is real, let's give her a platform. She created her own fashion company by borrowing $20 from us. She started doing designs, and then she sold them to all of our clients. Made a couple $100, and she reinvested it, started buying more clothes, and then we got her, and then she started having mirrors, and we just started going. It's like, we're like, if you want to go, like, hey, we'll help you out. But she's like, this is one of the things that I believe, going back to the longest question I just probably ever answered, what is being unstoppable, is giving people the freedom and the possibility to do whatever they want, right now. And you don't have to wait. And I believe it's like also having real life experiences, with our daughter as well. It's like, we've always treated her like a human being. We ask her questions, it's like we have to make decisions. When people ask, like, even when she was like 4 or 5 years old, people were like, what daughter's name? We're like, well, why don't you just ask your daughter? She's right there. What does your daughter like to do? Well, I don't know. Why don't you just ask her? And when you start empowering children at a very young age, it gives them empowerment, and it gives them that I am a person that should be listened to, and that is so powerful. Like, that's what makes you unstoppable. And then you're able to make difficult decisions while you're growing up because you're given that power. So that's probably the longest answer I've ever given for a question. But who knows? I don't know. So that's what I believe makes you unstoppable. And it's like right now we're going through this coronavirus. Like, this is crazy stuff, right? That's happening out there right now. Like I'm like, wow, this is like, to me, what's crazy is that Steve Jobs interview that was talking about the power of the internet. Dude, our business has tripled since coronavirus. So I'm not taking it away. I'm like, I feel for all the people that the brick and mortar businesses and the travel and the industry, like the people here in Bali, like it's horrific. It's just like, and the thing is, you're screwed. There's nothing you can do. Like, you got to do something different. But it's like, I couldn't imagine if I would have invested in a whole bunch of like a mortar. Like, we were looking at doing that here, and I'm like, thank God we didn't. And our branding and our PR agency. Now I just launched the Unstoppable Beard, and it's because it's like, now there's nowhere else I'm going. It's like, the world is pretty much shut down. I'm like, I don't even want to travel really right now. I've done so much traveling to where it's like, this has been a blessing, at least for me, because I'm a surfer, and it's been the most incredible surfing. And there's hardly anyone here. I'm like, this is like a dream. This is amazing. So
wow.
I don't know, but it's it happened. The Forbes thing, when you were asking about self-sabotage, the last 3 years, I had beard products, on the line. I've been talking about it. I'm finally, my wife and my daughter are like, Dad, when are you ever actually going to do this? And I'm like, I'm sick of making excuses, because before it was like when we traveled and I didn't have time and all this. Now I'm like, I have no excuses. There's like no excuses. I'm like, we're stuck, right? Like like, listen, if you can't do it now, then you're never gonna do it, right? And when people say, when this thing blows over, this thing isn't blowing. We're just getting started. It's like it's going way deeper. Like, if it didn't happen by now, it's like, this is gonna roll over. It's like, people wake up, and this is, where's it going? I don't know. But I do know it's like, you better be doing something online, and if you're not, you're really going to be irrelevant after this one.
Brian, I really, really appreciate you telling me the depth of the story, because I will tell you honestly, I was going to jump to the where we are now, but I tell you, I mean, I've followed you online, and I've stalked you online, and I've messaged you and stuff, and I've watched your story, but you just completed the picture. And so for anybody who is coming in now on this show, or watching a replay or whatever, go back to the beginning, because those little incremental steps that you took of fate and decisions that you made, of meeting the right woman, making the decision from your father. These are incremental steps that have led to your freedom of your mental freedom, your state of mind, and all the way up until now, being in Bali and being trapped, and you've got no choice but to do something when you've had all the time in the world to do it. This is beautiful. So for me, thank you. And those of you who are watching and watch this on the replay, think of the story. It's not just about where you are now. We have a heritage and we have legacy, but like you said to Hanalei, Rhonda said to Hanalei, what do you want to be now? What do you want to do now? So with all of those preconceived ideas and those notions that we have from our fathers and our mothers and whatever, we get stuck, right? Because we're older. But in your case, you've managed to break it, this cycle, right? So what was it about this self-sabotage that was, what do you think was locking you? What was holding you back?
It's interesting, because it wasn't until the article came out in Forbes and Russell Brand's advice in there. He says self-sabotage is about something that happened to you way back in the day. There's some type of trauma, and then you haven't been able to remove from your life. And I'm like, wondering what that is. I'm like, I don't have it exactly, but there's something that happened where we create something to where. So why are you self-sabotaging? Because that's what your body knows. That's what you're doing. So you're doing perfect when you're set up. So you got to break that cycle, right? You got to break that to how things actually work. And then finally, it's came down to me. It's like, I finally just drew a line in the sand. I'm sick of waking up looking at this liar in the mirror, right? It's like, you're a liar. Why are you like, what's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is like, we have a branding agency and our PR, and that works. Like, what's the worst case? I'm going to learn how to do e-commerce better. I'm going to learn how to do a physical product even better. I'm going to like everything we do, like I do. It's like, it's in complements what we're already doing. And it's like, if you're not learning every day and applying something new, then you're going to be stagnant. And it's like, where's your life?
Absolutely.
Where's your, like, to me, it's like, you got to go after something that you really love. And like for myself, like, check this out. Like, this is what makes it so great. I'm just doing the things that you're so passionate about. Like, it's your dharma. I'm listening to a new book from Jay Shetty, and it just came out, and he's talking about his dharma. And my dharma, like surfing, having like that is it. So I'm actually, creating an Unstoppable Surfers Retreat, creating my business around what I really love to do. And like, for instance, on Monday, I'm going with some big time investors that are in real estate, going to look at some property. I've known these guys, and it's like, but a lot of big players are coming in. The greatest thing, I'm like, dude, there's like some big waves coming in, and it's got like, they're right around I'm like, I'm bringing my filmer, and I'm like, we're making this as a business surf trip. I'm like, that's my life. Like, I'm like, hey, I'm getting business done, but I'm also going to have a lot of freaking fun doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I saw that when you guys went up to was it Mantaways? You went up there? Yeah. And such a perspective on the self-sabotage thing, Brian, it's really strange to me that you were procrastinating or holding yourself back and you were blocked for so long, especially being a surfer, because I've seen photos of you taking off on waves that I would never take off on. And I surfed since I was really young. But of course, living in Asia and not accessing the water all the time, it's very different to living in Bali and being in Uluwatu all the time. So those photos, to me, it wasn't congruent with who you are, because there was some mental block. And when you saw that thing with Russell Brand, and you're locked down, and you suddenly, so we all need a hammer to the head. We all need something to shock us, to move our state, right? To make us realize there's no excuse. No. And you've done that. So congratulations on the launch of Unstoppable Beard. And I must give you a feedback. Those of you who haven't seen the ads, it reminded me of Dollar Shave Club way back in the day. It was funny. And then because I grew up on motorbikes, and then, riding Harleys for a long time. And when you go, and I'm a scooter fanatic, and you get on the scooter, I was expecting you to get on a Harley, like a rented Harley or something. But it's so authentic and it's so fun. Go check it out.
I know you got to check it out. You can check it out on unstoppablebeard.com, and it's fun. And you know what? When talking about the Dollar Beard Club, I was on a marketer's cruise 5 years ago, and my filmmaker, we've always done creative stuff. I'm with my filmmaker, who now got hired away. Now he's Russell Brunson's film guy. But you got to start with us, and then we introduced him to Russell, and Russell freaking decided to pay him a lot more. I tell you what. It's hard to get good people. No,
good people.
Love it. We were on the marketer's cruise, and this big bearded guy, asked, what are you doing? He goes, I make quiz funnels. And we're like, who are you doing? He goes, the Dollar Beard Club? And my filmmaker goes, you're working with them? What's that?
Dollar Shave.
Yeah, so it's a Dollar Shave Club.
Yeah.
Right. And then it was Dollar Beard is what they made fun of it, and they replicated it, but for bearded guys. And so the videos were so funny. Like, I watched 2 videos and I'm like, I'm growing a beard. So it was actually the Dollar Beard Club that inspired me to actually grow a beard way back. I haven't shaved since. I wanted to, but 2 years ago, like my wife, I'm shaving it off. And my wife and my daughter are like, nope, you're not shaving it. Now it's like part of my brand. It's part of what I have. So now that I have a beard company, I can't shave it. So there you go.
Yeah, well, for a while, and then you'll do something for charity, because, segueing into that, you guys do a lot of work for charities as well in different countries that you travel. So you don't just like a traditional tourist go in and consume and litter and use and in some cases abuse different countries. You guys go in there and integrate with society and actually give back. And I saw that on your website, Brian. That's really inspiring as well. So a lot of what you're doing, for anybody out there who is inspired by or thinking about the possibility of doing their own business, there's no better time. And as you said, your business has quadrupled in this period because people are going online. It's never too late, but wrapping it around what you love is key, right? And we've talked about that. And then doing this charity, like giving back is another key. And I wanted to move on to, if I can, about the Unstoppable Brands. We've talked about that, is how to raise an unstoppable child. You've given a lot of clues, and success leaves clues, right? Who quoted that one? So success leaves clues, and it was about your traveling, and from your dad's bucket list, and then you're traveling with Hanalei, and those moments where you wake up and she goes, I'm a designer too, for those of you who missed that part. And where we are now, I've picked up on Hanalei about 2 or 3 years ago, and saw her designs and saw her launch a book, and saw her, now you've packaged it and you have the Unstoppable Children. So what is the essence of that unstoppable children, raising unstoppable children?
You know, it's like, what's kind of crazy is that we didn't know what exactly we were doing. Like on parenting, like what I'm saying, it's like,
who does?
We'd go to entrepreneurial events, and I remember one of the things, and this was the first time I went to an event, and my wife was, she got started in this online business, and I was this skeptical guy going, what the heck is this all about? And there's a first speaker that we saw, he was talking on the law of attraction. And I'm like, and this is before the movie The Secret came out. So this is back in 2005. And he says, one of the most powerful things you can do is take out the words no, not, and don't out of your vocabulary. And they're like, if you're having children, you remove these. And I'm like, huh? And try to do this. I want everybody to try to, like, not try, because try is either do or do not, right? You got to like listen to Yoda on that one. It's you do or do not, there's no try. But we consciously like put this together to where we're like, we're going to take these words out of our vocabulary, and yet it's hard as heck, because you think, don't do that, don't, doing that, and it's just these negative reinforcement. It's subconscious. This is how we're programmed. But if you like now, like some of the things that, like what I shared with you, like for like Hanalei, when she's 2 years old, 3 years old, she's climbing, like she's gonna fall down, like, don't do that, get down. We're like, hey, like, you know what? You're up there pretty high. There's consequences if you fall down. You start letting them make decisions for themselves, right? Yeah. And are they gonna get burned? Or are they gonna fall down? Or are they gonna get hurt? Yeah, of course they are. But I tell you what, you start giving them the power right away, which is just so key. And from there, just life lessons we picked up. Like, I remember we were traveling to Australia, and we picked up the book, The Celestine Prophecy. And it was from that book where we're reading the chapter about, treating kids as if they're human beings. And so we just like did that, and we're like, huh. So what we're doing is we're traveling the world, and we're just like picking things up as long as we go. And we're like, man, that really worked. And it's like, wow, this was like that. And we just kind of like putting them together. And finally, like, we've had so many people like, you got to put a book together. You got to put a course on parenting. We're like, we're not those parenting, like, like people write books about parenting and kids are brats and stuff, I don't know. But we're like, all right, well, we did pretty well. It's like, she's probably one of the coolest kids I know. What are some things, how can we help out? And it was interesting, over just 2 days ago, my friend, I didn't know, it was like he was going to do a 30th surprise birthday party for her, and he didn't tell anyone that it was actually going to be their engagement. So this happened 2 nights ago, and there was 3 speakers, and we're in our 40s. I'm 46, my wife's 47. We're like the oldest people, like by far, at this party, but we always have our family, and like, they just was very inspiring people, like not only just like as entrepreneurs, but then also like how we're raising Hanalei. And they chose us to speak, and I'm like, I didn't know what to really speak about, so I started talking about the perfect day. I kind of like saw it, and then he proposed, and he said, the reason that I asked you guys to speak, or she wanted you guys to speak, is because we never wanted to have a family, but you actually gave us the inspiration to have kids. And we want to learn as much as stuff about you guys, so we can raise, an unstoppable child. So it's crazy. But
Ryan, that's amazing.
Yeah, and so like, how we raised it, we just pick pieces along, and like I don't find myself as a religious person. I'm very spiritual, and it's like here in Bali, it's Indonesia is Muslim except for one country or one island, and it's Bali, which is Hindu. So I don't practice the Hindu faith, but I love it, and I take pieces that I love of it. There's I grew up as I was a Methodist. There's certain things like I don't practice Methodist, like Christianity to an extent, but I take certain parts that I like, and I kind of like just as a melting pot. I'm not Muslim. But there's certain things that I really like about what Muslims do, and I take those parts, and I kind of like we take for all this, like I like this, and then put it into one, and here's what it is. So that's I think I don't like to be just strict on one single thing. I like wow, that works for them, like great. There's certain things that don't work, so I'm like I take what I like and leave the rest.
You know what, Brian? A lot of people are scared of this. This mindset, this growth mindset, this freedom mindset. They're scared of it because they've been conditioned for so long. And if they can also just take parts of it and make small changes in their life to be more present, to be more mindful, they don't have to go all the way. Right, because if I may say I'm similar mentality as you. We're kind of one extreme of freedom, where we do as we like and we do as we feel, and we act through intuition and let that guide us. But a lot of people find that scary. But what I'm trying to do in like this Parenting Matters and whatever is not be the be all end all, the gospel of parenting, because nobody knows all the answers. We know pieces of it, and collectively, like what you're saying, putting the pieces there collectively, what we can put together to work for one child might not work for the other.
No.
So we need to be adaptable, flexible, dynamic, right? But I really like where you're coming from as far as letting the child express themselves, following their natural order of priority, or like what they're interested in, and throwing, like you said, a platform to help them achieve what they want to do. Whether they fail or not, that's beside the point. Right, but giving them these opportunities.
Yeah, well, it's just it's like it's funny when you start to when we got like a little fashion studio, people were like, well, what if she loses interest? We're like, so she loses interest. Like, what about putting money into it? I'm like, it's the life experience. Like she created a 6-figure fashion brand, and what's the funniest thing? She doesn't even really like to do fashion design anymore. She's grown out of it. And she was giving a talk on stage in front of hundreds of people. And they're like, well, where are you going to go with this fashion, with your fashion industry? She goes, I don't know. I think I might be done. And we're all just like,
great.
That was like a mic drop. Like, and I'm like,
mic drop. Yeah.
Like, wow. I'm like, just told us that. I'm like, cool. Like, do whatever you want.
Yep.
It's all a learning experience.
Yeah, and Brian, I mean, if we have our preconceived ideas of where it should go, and we're monetizing and all of that, then that's conditional, right? But if she flips it, the skater Sky Brown, the skater surfer Sky Brown, right? So she flips on, from Dancing with the Stars, she's flipped on to surfing, and she's an incredible skateboarder and all of this, and she too is into music now. So let them explore.
Yeah.
My boys are rad skateboarders, and forever. And then one of the boys said, I don't want to do skateboarding anymore. And I was heartbroken, but then I let it be. And then 6 months later, he's come back to skateboarding. So it just, I'm with you. Let them explore.
Yeah, you got that. I remember when I had my daughter, and she just didn't surf. And I'm like crushed on it. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, let's have another kid. Let's get a boy. And my wife's like, you know what? We did really good with this one. She goes, unless if you're going to give birth, we're only gonna have one. I'm like, wow, okay. You got me there. And you know what? We did do really well. So it's like, let's not screw this up. Anyway, she just started. She got a mentor. So like my daughter, she dropped out of school 3 years ago, and so she has a mentor like 2 days a week, and her mentor was surfer girl, and now my daughter started getting into surfing, and I'm like. Now we're like bros and stuff. Now she's like started surfing just a year ago. And now, so I'm like, all right, I got a daughter. She's like, we're rolling together now. So it's fun. You never know.
Brian,
it's like,
there's very good lessons.
Yeah, you never know, but you just can't push, like you got to do a certain amount of pushing and kind of give them that flexibility, right? You do as much as you can as a parent, and I think that like without forcing. And when you lead, right, and that's the whole thing. You can lead, like you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make the horse drink. You can lead your kid as best as you can. You can give them enough push, but once it becomes that force, they're going to resent you, and it's not going to be fun. And it's going to be like, it's like, all right. So like, even like, it's like, here, you want to hear some real good parenting skills? Check this out. All right. So these are our parenting skills. 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, she dropped out. No, it was like 2 years ago. And we're like, okay, because she was getting bullied, and she even talks about that. This is part of her story. And it was like a real, like crazy stuff on how she was getting bullied. And, and that's a whole different story. But where was I going with this? So the schooling, we're like, well, what kind of platform do we have? So this other friend of ours, like, they do this unschooling. And okay, what you're going to allow Hanalei to do is to, for 30 days, have her do whatever she wants. I'm like, so she's just going to do absolutely whatever she wants. And they're like, yeah. I go, so I don't give her any guidance whatsoever for 30 days. No. And I'm like, I go, so what if she wants to do like YouTube videos for watch YouTube videos for 15 hours a day? She goes, let her do watch YouTube videos for 15 hours a day. And I'm like, what is this all about? She goes, what happens is that they eventually get so bored that they have to go out. Then they start going towards what their passion is and how to learn and stuff. And I'm like, okay. And I was just like, I'm like, this is the easiest parenting I could possibly do. I'm like, wow. And it's right. She gets bored of it. But then she's watching the YouTube videos. See, you got to look at, I look at it like they're producer or consumer. And so when she's watching YouTube videos, she's learning how to freaking produce because she knows how to make money. And she's like, then she's a producer. So, it was a weird way, but like it allowed them to make the decisions. And now I'm sure that doesn't work for every kid, Everyone. But it was like, hey, after 2 days, do something different, right? So, we're testing things out. We didn't have a direct right or wrong answer. We're figuring things out as we go.
This is it's so good, Brian. There's so many nuggets of goodness that parents can take. They don't have to like totally change their life, or they don't have to change their parenting overnight. But what I like is inspirational about what you're doing. I had no idea that you were at this depth of experimentation, experiential learning with your kids, and just like with Hanalei, just bumming along and trying and testing, because a lot of people, they're scared, they don't want to test it. But the one that you got of unparenting for a period of time, it's like they say, if you go for a weekend and have a social media detox, okay, well, let's do the reverse of that and just say, do whatever you want from Friday until Monday, and let's see what happens. Now, Monday, why the parents won't do it, you guess why they won't do it. If they say, watch movies all weekend or play video games all weekend, why won't the parents do it, Brian? What do you think?
Well, why won't they do it? I don't know. It's just, it's conditioning. It's like,
and you think about Monday morning. You're going to be late for school. You're going to be tired. You're going to be looking like a rat bag. The teachers are going to complain because I got you to school late. It's all about me. So we're living through our children rather than letting them fail. And hey, teacher, he's late today. He's learning. It's a journey. But the experience that Rhonda had back in those days, you need to be here at the preschool at 6:30 and you need to pick up at 5 o'clock. Right. That is drummed into our head. We're conditioned by that so much that we are scared to let our children fail.
Well, and that's the thing. What's happening right now, right? Like, we got this pandemic where now, like, it's like everything's going on. So many like schools, like the schooling system. Like, somebody asked me a question just a little bit ago. Like, what do I think of like the traditional school system? my opinion, it's like, it's broke. I think we all kind of know this. It's like, it was created to put people into jobs, right? I mean, that's essentially, and like, it was designed
on the assembly
perfectly.
line, on the assembly line in Detroit City to make Ford motor cars.
Right. No, it's a system where, it's amazing that they don't, and they're like, why don't they teach entrepreneurs? Like, because it's a system to put people into a job. You don't teach that kind of stuff. It's like you just got to look at why things are happening and you navigate around them. It's like, like for right now, it's like, now this is the time where you can you can wake up. Like kids, they're not sending their kids back to school now. And you got to like start questioning if you're not questioning right now with what's happening and how it's actually happening with the coronavirus and what's really happening on a higher level. It's like, you better start questioning these things, start doing things differently. And it's like taking a lot of the things into your own hands, with your own schooling, what's right, because like what was right for me going into school. Yeah. I learned how to be an employee and it worked out perfectly. I got a perfect corporate job. It was like, it was made, but like for myself, like now it's like, where is it going? Does it work? No. Today, you can't teach things in school that's going to be relevant. The stuff that I learned, all the stuff that I learned for robotics engineering actually was in high school. Like everything I did in college, like that, it meant nothing. It was just a whole bunch of freaking extra work that made no sense. Like really, it was a waste. But
so, absolutely. But because we were trained for the jobs that were available in 5 years from now, be an engineer or be a robotics or whatever. Yeah. But when we think about those jobs, they're virtually not existent anymore, or they're being replaced. And we think about how fast, for example, TikTok and Facebook and social media is growing, and the world around us is growing, buying and selling. They didn't teach us about financial management. They didn't teach us about entrepreneurism. And so, like in the example of Hanalei and so many other teenagers around the world today, not necessarily the ones that are driving Lamborghinis and Ferraris and stuff like that, because they've obviously not settled in their mind, but they're showing and they're proving that they can do it. And see, this is the thing about governments, Brian. They're scared of too many entrepreneurs, too many free thinkers. But sooner or later, it's kind of like Uber or Grab Taxi or whatever. Sooner or later, they've got to get their head around it, right? It's just, it's the future. So one lady, I don't know if you've seen Dr. I, and she set up a school called the Classroom Without Walls. And I highly recommend you, if you're not already, connect with her. And she was a professor, did 10 years teaching digital marketing in university, and she dropped out of it. And she dropped out of it because she said, where are we actually going with training them where they can actually apply it and learn without the walls of the classroom? Because whatever you learn in the classroom has already been documented 4 years ago or 3 years, even 12 months ago. It's obsolete.
Nah, you can't. It's going too fast, and it's like you can't really create something because it'd be fast, relevant. Like it moves too fast. Yeah.
So, Brian, in wrapping up, I mean, we've chatted. We could chat all day about these topics because we're obviously aligned in our thoughts on these things, and we just hope that we can impact a few parents to pick up a few nuggets and to take chances and be a little bit unstoppable, to try things.
Right.
But I just wanted to finish up with something because I really, really think it's amazing what you've done, and launching the Unstoppable Beard brand, those videos and stuff. If you could just in closing, just give us some thoughts about Unstoppable Beard, how people get in contact with you and your family, your Unstoppable family. I'll obviously put those links below. But any final words for parents out there who are navigating this life and this new experience that we're in now?
Yeah, I think it's. I was given. This is one thing I said, like when we went to start our travel. So back in 2008, we lose everything financially. And we make a decision to go travel the world. Not the most conventional way. Like people were like, so you lost all your money, but you're going to go travel the world? Yep. And this is what we got. We have so many people going, look at what you're doing to your child. Your child's going to be broken. She's never going to have real friends. She's all these fears. And I remember just saying to one person, I said, well, that may be the case, but my heart says yes. And I can always course correct, and I always can come back. And if something's not right, let's fix it along the way. Like when you're, a plane going from London to LA, it's off course, 99% of the time, but it's just those corrects, right? So be like right now, experiment right now. Be open to things, test things. Don't be so rigid, man. This is a time that, man, we only got one life to live. Like let's go do it and like have fun with it. Like the world and life that I believe is like, it's a world you have fun. If you're not having fun, man, something's wrong. You gotta be rolling with it.
Yeah. So thanks very much, Brian. It's been awesome chatting with you, and I look forward to catching up with you more often and connecting with Rhonda. She's replied to me as well. You guys are really, really busy there in Bali, and anybody who would like to reach out to the Unstoppable Beard Man, the Unstoppable Family Man, just Google unstoppablepamily.com, and it's a beautiful website. I showed it before. I'll show it again just on the out, and I love what you guys are doing with this. You've done a great job, and those images of Hanalei and your fashion shows and what you're doing in Bali and integrating with the society there, doing charitable work, in the music, the surf, the raising of children, the entrepreneurism. Brian, it's all there, and I'm very inspired by what you guys are doing. And on behalf of Parenting Matters and Growth Works, we'd like to say thanks very much, Brian.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.